The latest workers forced to work without pay, 46,000 IRS workers. This move means Americans will get their tax returns on time, but it does seem with the Trump administration calling back, and all of a sudden people are now essential employees, and they're no longer furloughed, not working without pay. Now they're working without pay. It does seem like they are trying to, play with the categorization so as the likes of us, people who are not furloughed or not federal employees, are not hurt by this.
Well, I think that can only go for so long. Even just going through the airport, you see the impacts of this. There are TSA workers, even if they're present, and I'm not saying all of them, but even if they're present, they're not completely active. Right. You can see despondence on their faces. Like, this is a very, very tough shutdown, especially, again, we're 26 days in for those who are not doing the math. I think the other part of this is people are not calculating how this has disastrous impacts on the economy overall. When you consider the number of people who are contractors for the federal government, there's well over 10,000 companies, and that's going to be costing the economy overall more than $200 million a week.
And they're not going to get back pay.
No, they don't get back pay. Even with this bill that was signed, it's for federal workers, not for federal contractors.
And this, I wonder if at this point, at one point, the president, let's just put it as charitably as possible, it doesn't have the largest compassion gene inside him. Mm-hmm. But when the economy, when the economic numbers start to really show slowing down, if not worse, will then he be prompted to?
I think the possibility of economic consequences are the most likely to be a pressure point on him of anything. But that being said, when it comes to something like tariffs, he's been advised that this could go badly for the economy as well, and he digs his heels in. The bottom line is that federal workers out of work or furloughed for Donald Trump is not a political pressure point. Just pure politics, it is not a pressure point for him. It is a pressure point for Democrats. So that is why I have thought that unless he just up and caves tomorrow because he decides to, because sometimes he does weird stuff like that, that they would likely have to give some physical part of border security in a package. But, and I see you shaking your head with good reason, the left has said, we gave you the House and this is your first fight with him. You can't cave. Then we're at an impasse.
How disturbing is it? Because I know what Mary Catherine is saying about the president is true, but how disturbing? I mean, I want the American people to wrap their minds around this, that the only pressure point for him is what impacts him directly. But he doesn't care about people not being able to feed themselves and their children. He doesn't care that 70% of this economy is a consumer-based economy. So, he has never suffered materially a day in his life. He is a selfish man.
I think it's easy for a lot of conservatives to say, well, this is a partial government shutdown. This doesn't affect the entire government. This is just a percentage. But if this is your paycheck, this is 100% a big problem. So it really didn't hit home with a lot of constituents and reaching out to members of the House and Senate and their leaders until Friday, when they first got that goose egg on their paycheck and they said, this is real. This is a real problem. So now they're speaking out, which I think goes a long way to why we're now seeing progress. We had the problem solvers come today, and they say they have made progress. They're getting together and having some consensus. There's going to have to be some horse trading. I believe DACA has to be part of the deal. But what they are having conversations on and has moved progress on is there's a bipartisan effort. Let's open up this government, and then we'll worry about securing the border.
But the White House won't do that because they think the only leverage they have is the government shutdown. Take a look at Washington Post reporter Bob Costa tweeted, couple senior Republican lawmakers tell me the only way this breaks open is if TSA employees stay home and Americans get furious about their flights. That's the only out, they say, and they're close to the White House. And then you also heard in the piece by Tom Foreman, there is this fear maybe it's going to take a tragedy. I mean, you have law enforcement agencies not working at full capacity, et cetera. And hopefully that won't be it. Obviously, none of us want that to happen, but will it take something like that?
And I think that's exactly the point, bringing this full circle back to the State of the Union address, too. That is a time where all the Supreme Court justices, everyone in the executive branch except for one, all of the members of Congress, you have those number of people present and with the significance of their roles in one building. That is scary, and it is a severe threat given the circumstances right now and that government agencies aren't operating at their full capacity.